Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back in. It's more bite-sized business advice. In today's episode, we're talking about the climate crisis, but not just talking about it. We're talking about how you can help as a business owner. I am a huge proponent that small business owners are the backbone of society, and we're also the backbone of change. If all of us change, then the world can't help but change with us. So let's talk about how we can do that and make the world a better place with a very special guest, John Lamy. Welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Brandon, thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you.
So this is an exciting conversation. It's also sort of a buzzword topic these days, climate crisis. So why don't we kind of set the stage there and help me understand, what do you mean by climate crisis?
Yeah, good. I'm glad you asked it that way, because I look at it as having two levels. One that everybody's familiar with, CO2, fossil fuel, temperature rising. The oceans have gone up about 10 inches over the past little while. The hurricanes, you guys in North Carolina just got hammered, on and on. People know about that. There are deniers who denied that, and we're not trying to talk to them. We're not trying to convince them. We're talking to people who say, yeah, we got a real situation going here. So that's the top level. There's a deeper level that we are working with, and we ask people to more like think about it. And that is our whole relationship with the earth. I mean, I'm a businessy guy. I'm an engineer by training, but if you stop and think about how we regard the earth, how we treat the earth, we think of it as a resource. We go out and get stuff out of it. We massage the stuff, and when we're done, we put it back. And there's a capacity that the earth has for doing that. And very broadly aggregating it all together, we're at about twice what the earth can handle today. The amount we're taking out is roughly twice what it can supply in the long term. And the amount of pollution we're putting back out is about twice what it can handle. Just very round numbers. So that is a deeper meaning of the climate crisis. And we want people to begin to think about their relationship with the earth, and to think instead, we people are products of the earth. We are part of the earth. Even if we're in business, even if profit is our main objective, we still are children of the earth, you might say. So that's the deeper part of the crisis, that we are alienated. There's an alienation from the earth, and then obviously from each other. By the time this goes on the air, it'll be many months from now. But we just now had an election in this country, and there's a lot of animosity and antipathy and alienation. That's all part of the problem. So we want to help people to address that at a real fundamental level, and thereby tackle the climate crisis, that first level thing, the CO2 and the fossil fuel. So that's a longish answer, but that gives you the general idea. Companies who sincerely feel that and say, well, I want to help. I mean, we still have to, we got to run the black. We got to produce a bottom line that's going to be favorable, but what can we do to tackle the climate crisis?
Well, that's a big question.
Yeah.
I don't think we can answer that question in the next 10 minutes, but we're going to chip away at it. And I like what you said there. We were designed to be stewards of the earth, to manage it, to maintain it.
Yep.
And it's a powerful word. Honestly, it's a word that we use at our company, Humanop, and we are stewards of the company. We are stewards of the planet. Mm-hmm. And to think that to adopt the consumer mindset is dangerous, and it's kind of what got us in this place. So shifting from a consumer to a steward is, maybe step one, if not maybe in the top 5 steps. But let's start answering that question. What can we do to solve this problem? What, from your
Yeah.
perspective, what do you think really is step one?
Yep. I'm glad you looked at that because I think of it as steps. I think of it as a process. Again, I'm an engineer by training, so I tend to think that way. Step one is to just look at the company itself, look inward, and think about what are our values? What are the actual values that drive this company? And are we open to expanding them to include, I like your word, stewardship of the earth? Could we sincerely, now you got to watch for greenwashing. You got to watch for wordsmithing. I've facilitated a lot of these meetings where people try to create value statements and they just wordsmith. That's not going to do it. You need to really think. So let's start with that. What are our actual values? And then you expand that out a bit. What is our actual carbon footprint of our company? What is it, and how does it compare with other companies, either in our industry or of the same size or the same number of employees or whatever? But how are we doing? A third thing, and this starts to get into one of our company's deeper values. What are our externalities? Meaning, that's kind of an economics term, but activities that we participate in that do not appear in our financials. That's the way I look at it. So the example that I like, and it's kind of poignant. We're a manufacturing company, and we use trichloroethylene for cleaning. It's a solvent, and when we've used it and it's dirty, we'll just pour it in the little creek out and back. Who cares? It's not that big. We only use a couple of gallons a month, so that's an externality. Why? Because it doesn't show up on anybody's profit and loss statement. Goes into the creek, causes cancer, is bad stuff. We could, as a company, decide to stop doing that and to send it off to a class 1 dump site where they actually work on this stuff. Find out your externalities and at least measure them. So that's an important step. And then maybe a fourth step is to appoint a green team within your company, cross-functional. So it probably, if you're a manufacturing company, which I came from Silicon Valley, we made stuff. So you've got an R&D group, oftentimes fairly smart folks that can help guide the science part of it. You usually have a manufacturing group where maybe 50-60% of your employees are. And then you've got a marketing team, you've got a finance team, and so on. So take the people from cross-functionally and task them with managing your approach to tackling climate. Have them figure out, well, gee, like a really good, a very basic, as you're calculating your carbon footprint, which they could manage that. It's not easy to do, but how about our supply chain? You're going to need some pretty smart people to truly analyze the carbon footprint impact of your supply chain. So that's another step, is to take a good look at that. I'm going on at some length there, but maybe that's okay. These are all things that you could do, should do, would want to do. Once you've got that all going, then you can start to think about messaging it outward to our community. Here's what we're doing, community. And yes, we have these externalities and we're working on them. I worked for a company where we did that, even back in the day, in the 80s and 70s. The community appreciates it. They truly do appreciate it when you take that kind of a stand. So begin to have a messaging strategy that gets it out there, both to your community, to your industrial group. You probably go to annual meetings or conferences or papers or whatever. Work on it like that. And that raises yet another point here as you do your strategic planning. That's what I spend a lot of my time doing. Ask who your stakeholders are, not just the shareholders. The shareholders are key, absolutely. But how about the employees? People love to work for, they do. They love to work for a company that's doing something like this. How about your supply chain? Very often you can have a really good symbiotic relationship with your supply chain, and they appreciate it. They often can't afford to get the kind of training that they would like, and maybe you can supply that for free to them because you've got the expertise. How about your customers? Of course, that oftentimes is the key stakeholder that people don't look at it like that, but it's true. The community around you, all those, the stakeholder constellation as a key part of your strategic planning. So anywho, that's a kind of a broad stroke. We have videos that we offer for people to kind of get on board with all that, both short ones that are like 15 minutes to get started, and then longer ones that are like course length. You can watch them over a few weeks. That's good. And then as you and I mentioned just before we got on here, we have this thing called coached peer circles, small teams on Zoom where you're with peers. And I think it helps to have people that really are your peers. You're not just having people throwing rocks at you and saying, you got. But with a coached peer circle, what can happen is somebody said, well, we're going to try this. And somebody else says, you know what, we did try that, and here's what happened. And that's different than people saying, oh, that's not going to work. When someone says, I'm a peer, I'm a CEO just like you. We tried it. Here's what happened. And we didn't anticipate that. Or here's another idea. Oh, that kind of thing when it's peers. So Steve and I work to collaborate that to make that. So anyway, that's
super cool. I love I like that concept first and foremost, because I mean, it's accountability is it's not a new idea, but it's a great idea. So we should all leverage it. But something you said, I want to dive into the 5 steps, just on one or two of them real quick. First and foremost, values. We've mentioned that a number of times on this show. And our other show, The Ether, we've talked at length about why you need to start with your core values and how that helps every other decision in your organization. So, John, spot on. Love that one. We don't need to dive in there. Step 2, though, I am curious about this. We're talking to business owners, smaller businesses, whether they're solopreneurs or they have anywhere from 5 to 25 to 50 employees. You said calculate your carbon footprint.
Yeah.
I am not that smart of a guy. I don't know exactly how to do that, but I have seen it. I booked some flights this weekend, and I see on United, shout out United if you want to sponsor our show, we love you. But it says 185 kilograms of CO2 per seat. I'm like, okay, I have no idea what that means, but it's a cool calculation. How do we go about understanding what our carbon footprint is and then benchmarking it and improving it? That's a lot of questions in one, but that concept never really made sense to me. How we're actually calculating this number.
Yeah. And it's fairly technical, I would say.
Okay, maybe we need a part 2, but
yeah.
How about establishing? Are there industry benchmarks once we've calculated it? Are there clear ways to reduce it?
There are. You look at the specifics of your activity. They break it into, they call it scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. Scope 1 is here's just our facility. And you can say, okay, well, I can begin to wrap my mind around that. We run a big machine that puts out X amount of, let's say it runs on diesel fuel. So it runs 24 hours a day. And so it puts out this amount. Oh, okay. You can calculate that. That's a fairly straightforward calculation. So many tons or pounds of CO2 go out per day. All right, there's one. That kind of thing is called scope 1. Scope 2 is the utilities that you bring directly in. So we consume a certain amount of electricity. You look on your bill and you say, well, we consume 100 kilowatt hours per day. Okay. Well, where does that come from? Here in Oregon, something like 50% of it is solar or wind. Good. But the other 50% is brought in from Utah, and it's coal. So 100, cut it in half, 50 kilowatt hours with coal produces X number of. So you got that. That's kind of how it works. So that's scope 2. Scope 3 is what I mentioned earlier, is your supply chain. And that is almost always very hard. So we buy plastic from Jones Plastic Company. How many tons of plastic do we buy? How do they make it? Whoa, it's hard to figure out. And after we're done, our product is obsolete now. It's been used up. It's 10 years later. What happens to it? That's also part of it's not really supply chain, but it's the total chain. So that's how you do it. And as you do that, you go, whoa, here's an opportunity. Oh, here's an opportunity. Oh, this is going to be hard. This one here, I'm not sure what we're going to do. But it kind of goes like that.
That's interesting to me. Do you have a resource for those calculations if someone wants to dive in? Do you have videos on it on your website?
We do not have videos on that, but you can basically Google carbon footprint calculations, and there are a number of them that kind of walk you through it. A lot of them I've seen are at the homeowner level, but at least it gives you some kind of a start. Yeah, you can just Google carbon footprint calculation.
That's super cool. Well, yeah. I mean, I love this conversation. It went super quick, and there's so much here to talk about. We could talk about this for months, and not even scratch the surface, I'm sure. Yep. So if someone is listening to this, they are in that camp where they are conscious of the crisis. They do want to make a difference in their business, in their home life, for their employees, and take that next step. Where should they go to reach out to you, learn more about what you have going on, and watch some of those videos that you mentioned?
Yep. The globallyconsciousleader.com. Look at that. Magically appeared.
The magic of show business. You love that?
Yay. That's a good place to go. And then I'm John at thegloballyconsciousleader.com. So, and my partner is Steve. And we've been at it for a few years now. And frankly, we have not yet really gone large. We haven't really skinned the cat yet. So we're just working on ways of reaching out. We've been working on a book, for example, writing a book. I don't know if you've ever written a book, but it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. So that kind of thing.
I've barely read a book, so.
Yep.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm excited to see the finished product of the book, and I wish you the best of luck with that. And thank you for coming on the show. I am curious. Well, let me pause real quick. For those of you listening and not watching, the globallyconsciousleader.com. It's on the screen. It's also in the show notes and description down below, wherever you are. So you have access to that website, and all of and John's email as well, we'll put down there. So you can contact him, social media, whatever we have, it's down there. But John, I'm curious. I love to end these shows with a powerful question. And to me, it's a great way for the listener to just ask themselves this question and actually take action on this episode. So for you, for the business owner who's not a denier, who's in that sweet spot of they want to make a difference, but they're overwhelmed with everything, every potential option to make a difference, what is a powerful question you want them to ask themselves so they can take action and start to fight the climate crisis that we have going on?
Yeah, that's good. I'm thinking, because I like the way you framed that question. Given the way you framed it, I think the question could be, how serious are we? how much do our values, and they're held as individuals. I think you think a company has values, but they're distributed among the individuals. How seriously do we want to work on this? Are we willing, for example, this is a real one. Are we willing to have our percent net profit reduce a little bit? Our dollar net profit might actually go up, meaning that our total revenue might go up as we do this. I think it does go up. But the percent net profit might shrink a little bit. Why? Because we're going to now address externalities. That's going to cost us something. We're going to stop making product that is actually damaging to the environment, and it could be profitable product. How willing are we to do that? Now, somewhere along the way, I got an MBA, and I know you have to make a profit. You just can't be in a situation where you're not profitable. It just means you're not doing something right. But how willing are we? To what extent will we go to help with this? And that's a values question. So that's I think that'd be my answer to where you really want to go. That's challenge. And it's hard. I think that's hard.
That's a tough question for sure,
Yeah.
but that's a great question. And I love it. And I hope you as a listener take that, ask yourself that question, and whatever answer you get is the answer you get. But start there. John, thank you so much for being here.
Yep. Brandon, thank you so much. It's a real joy talking to you. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you. And for those of you watching, listening, wherever you are, again, all that info, all the links are down in the show notes down below. We love having you here. Make sure you subscribe. We put out an episode a day because, yes, we're crazy, but also we want to help you build a more harmonious business and life. And with that, we'll see you on tomorrow's episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Thanks for being here.